Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Call Talk for Wednesday, May 19th. We are sorry about the technical difficulty we had with the show last week. This was caused by too many people listening to our show, which overloaded our servers and caused the program to crash. This problem has now been fixed. Thank you very much for understanding and joining us today. Our topic for the show is adherence, the problems, the policies, and the best practices. During the show, we invite you to ask questions via email at calltalk@BenchmarkPortal, chat us on calltalk.tv if you're logged in, or call in to ask your questions to the host. The number to call in is 347-857-3117. Everyone who asks a question on the show via email or phone will receive a free copy of Bruce's book, Benchmarking at its Best, and one person will be chosen at random to win an in-depth reality check benchmarking report valued at $1,500. And now I'd like to introduce the host of Call Talk, Bruce Belfiore.
Thanks very much, Sean, and welcome back to Call Talk, everyone. Our apologies again for the technical glitch last time, and let's hope that the second time's a charm. So for today's show, our listeners have chosen adherence, the problems, the policies, and the best practices. I'm really pleased to have as my guest Erica Cockfield, who hopefully we'll actually be hearing from this week. Erica's been in the customer service industry for over 17 years. She has a great range of industry experience, and that includes the financial sector at Merrill Lynch, the insurance sector at Aetna, government sector, the state of Georgia, where she and I first met, and I recognize the fire in the belly that she has for call center management, and now the municipal utility industry for the city of Atlanta. During her career, she's been recognized by the governor of Georgia, the mayor and city council of the city of Atlanta for her work as a leader within the customer service industry. She currently is the director for the City of Atlanta Watershed Management Call Center, which has been certified 2 years in a row now as the Center of Excellence. So she does her work with a lot of passion and insists on having a lot of fun while she's doing it. Erica, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate being here, and thank you for this opportunity, even though, Bruce, you are taking me out of schedule adherence.
Okay. Well, Eric, I'll just call your workforce manager to be sure they make the necessary adjustment.
You know I have to get that pre-approved, Bruce.
You do. How many signatures? Okay. Okay, great. Well, let's start with a basic question. What is schedule adherence?
All right. Schedule adherence is the amount of time that an agent is expected to be on the phones outside of their scheduled breaks and lunches. To simply put it, it's a percentage of time that we expect our team members to be available to take phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Great definition. And why is it important?
All right. Schedule adherence is very important. Sometimes we as call center managers and supervisors mistake and think that if we have the amount of people on the phones, if they put in their 8 hours, it's good enough. However, schedule adherence is where you really need to focus on the time the agents are on the phone. We need to make sure we have the amount of people, the right people on the phones at the right time, going to break on time, going to their lunches on time, coming back on time. The more that you don't focus on that time management, it takes more than just putting 8 hours in on the phone. It has to be the right 8 hours.
Right. Okay. So really in a situation where you have flows of communications and you have a lot of time and effort put into trying to predict and schedule for those flows of communications so that they can be handled properly, you really need people to be in the right place at the right time. And it's not just for handling the calls, right? I mean, we're talking about schedule adherence globally.
That's correct. Whenever an agent is out of adherence, meaning they are not following their schedule or they come back from break a little bit here, a little bit there, I have a breakdown of a calculation I'd like to share with you, is that if you look at a team member who's on the phones and if they're outside of their schedule only 20 minutes a day, to the average person or in an office environment, that may not seem like a big deal. Okay, I took 3 minutes on my break. I came to work 10 minutes late. I'm logging off for lunch 5 minutes early. That 20 minutes a day can be calculated to cost to the company as well as cost with our customers as far as the impact. If you take 20 minutes a day and you multiply that by 5 days a week, that equals to be 100 hours each week. 100 minutes every week. You take that 100 minutes, and if this is a consistent team member, multiply that by 50 work weeks, that team member has been doing something other than being available for phone calls for 83 hours in the year. If you take that 83 hours and multiply it times an average salary of maybe $12 an hour, that's costing $1,000 per agent per year for that simple 20 minutes a day. The impact to the customers is that if on average, if your agent takes about 4 customers every hour, the 20 minutes can equal to 20 customers a week that they have not been able to reach contact with. The 20 customers can back up to be 1,000 customers that have either became angry because they're waiting longer, 1,000 customers that have bunched up to the other team members who are in adherence and doing the right thing, and or 1,000 customers who have chosen to leave your organization simply because you have one person who hasn't been able to fulfill their obligation, which is to be there and receive those phone calls.
Right. Okay, well, that is a great takeaway, Erica, and I'd encourage everyone to do that calculation if they're not already doing it for their call center. And if some of you were listening and said, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and you want to have that calculation, just email us, and we'll see that you get a template that you can utilize for yourself that you can then customize so that you can understand what the actual financial impact is. And it's a big thing to do that because it will also show that managerially you are being a good steward of your company's resources. Could you have a story to tell us, too, with regard to that in terms of just letting people know about
Yes, Bruce. Matter of fact, as I was preparing for this program, my managers and I started to talk about schedule adherence to review the team members who are having challenges in meeting their objectives. And we have one manager, he was able to put the cost exactly to the team member salary. And what the managers decided to do was to sit down with the agents individually and show them the impact that they have in dollars to our organization as well as in customers. They showed the impact daily, monthly, and they rolled it up to a year. The results have been outstanding. This conversation happened a few weeks ago, and the most recent update of information with the schedule adherence is that the people who were spoken to and showed this were, one, amazed, of course, because it's sometimes we don't realize the dollars and cents of the activities that we do. And then it has corrected their behavior. The managers have individually said, hey, so-and-so, they're on point now, or, this is the first time I've seen, this person consistently meet the objectives of schedule adherence. So it's amazing. Sometimes it's just people don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so sharing the information, you don't want to do it in a threatening way. You just want to do it to say, hey, we're looking at this, and we're paying you to be on point, and we are just asking if you could be on point.
Right. That's a great point, and really it's nothing like communicating in the right way to people in the call center. Sometimes we tend to hide things from them that we really should, and that makes them less responsible. I mean, what we should do is make them co-responsible.
Yes.
And I think about the story that Catherine Gilmore, who was one of our guests, told of taking over one of the lowest performing call centers in her organization and having it zoom up to the second highest. And she said, the main thing I did was tell everybody we were at the bottom, and basically explain to them what it is that they need to do to do better. So with schedule adherence, same thing, really, make it a shared responsibility, and perhaps also indicate to people that it has a ripple effect on other metrics too, like average speed of answer, queue time, things like that, right?
Correct. And one thing that I found in my experience with the team members as well is if they just if you can help them to realize the impact on their team members. We all know in a call center environment, it's usually a closer-knit environment. Folks are sitting by one another for, throughout the day. You have good camaraderie, and to know that, hey, what you're not doing, your friend to the left and right of you is having to pick up for, that helps to make an impact too. And you mentioned about sometimes we tend to hide information. I think the more we educate the team members, as you were saying, Bruce, the better it's received, because people genuinely want to do the right thing. And it's not to use these items to police, it's to use these items to inform and to allow them to take authority over their activities, opposed to it's not a punitive, it's just an educational item to use.
Right. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about some of the other root causes of adherence problems that are fairly common. And I think that, probably among the listeners we can parse people out into a couple different categories. Those that right now just aren't even following adherence as an important metric, those that are and that are happy with their situation, and others who are following it and are unhappy with the situation. But
okay.
Why don't you give us root causes of problems that people will oftentimes have with it?
Sure, no problem. Some of the root causes of lack of schedule adherence or poor schedule adherence sometimes just boils down to the lack of understanding or the education. Once again, to go back of the importance, people sometimes don't know the power of one, especially in a call center environment. You may be one of 200 agents or one of 50 agents. Most call centers are greater than the sum of 20 or 10, and so therefore you feel like a little fish in a big pond and don't realize the impact that you do have both to the organization and to the customer. So I would first recommend that if you're having a challenge in this area, or you have a handful or one employee that is challenged, just to speak with them about it. Explain to them the impact that they have, the wonderful power of one, and sometimes that's all you need is just to educate them. Sometimes we have team members and agents that are just not motivated to be on time. Why would they not be motivated to be on time? Well, you could have a supervisor or a manager who turns the other cheek. Johnny is good and all these other things. So what? He's 5, 10, 15 minutes late here and there. And sometimes there's no repercussion. If you don't have a schedule adherence metric in place, and or you don't value that in your monthly one-on-ones, then therefore you're not motivated. You're encouraging the wrong behavior as opposed to trying to bring up a positive behavior. Secondly, sometimes some team members or some organizations have too rigid of schedules. For example, if you set the goal too high, I want you to be 100% in adherence. Well, of course, people have to go to the restroom. Sometimes people, you're going to come back. Agents will come back from breaks from time to time a little bit late or go to break a little bit late because of a phone call. Things happen. So you don't want to set the bar too high to where you set your team members up for failure.
Right,
also,
okay. So you don't want to feel like they're robots and that they're being treated like robots. There has to be a little bit of wiggle room there that's the human factor that people feel that you're taking account of, right?
That's correct. And I have a quick thing as well. We engaged our team members a while back of having them help to set the metrics with what do they think is fair. Once they understood schedule adherence, the task force voted to have it a higher standard than what we originally were recommending, as far as the managers were recommending. So if you get your team members involved and get their buy-in and not just all the time push down what something should be, but bring them in and say, this is schedule adherence, this is what it means, this is how it benefits us and or hurts the organization, what do you think the standards should be, and come to a happy medium. You may find that to work out pretty well for you.
Yeah, no, and here you had a happy surprise in that they actually picked a standard that was higher than you were originally planning.
Correct.
Oh,
and then sometimes, and it's great when they have buy-in, they feel a part of something, opposed to it being kind of a dictatorship, which sometimes we like to do.
Right. Okay, good. And what about technology and all this?
Okay. Well, I believe I saw from some of the pre-questions as we discussed is that a good amount of folks are actually using spreadsheets. That's not an issue whatsoever. I know my team here used spreadsheets for a great long period of time, as well as when I was at another organization. And then other people do have workforce management software, which is wonderful. If you don't have it, I definitely recommend that you look into that. Either item that you use to calculate the adherence, you want to be careful to not come across as something to enforce, but something to enable and educate your team members. We're not here to play Big Brother, even though sometimes people will feel that way. We're really here to give the agents the tools and the education to say, this is why you've made schedule adherence or you didn't make schedule adherence. What can we do to help improve that? And so you want to be careful not to be an enforcer, but to be an enabler to help people understand the importance of what they do. And once again, back to that power of one.
Yeah, and really the technology needs to be an enabler, and that's something that actually sets up improper blocks. I was in a situation with a call center that does inbound sales. And as part of the inbound sales, they also have to do outbound calls to do follow-ups and to respond to, follow-up queries and things like that. And each time that they wanted to go into outbound mode, they had to call the workforce management people, ask to be put into outbound, and actually give a period of time that they were going to be in outbound, and which might have been a good amount or not. And anyway, they were very frustrated with it because obviously they wanted to sell on behalf of the company, close deals for themselves and get their commissions, et cetera. Anyway, we talked it through, and they now have a button on their machine so that they can put themselves into outbound mode.
Okay.
Did not take a whole programming, wasn't a big deal, and made a huge difference in terms of the morale of the people in the call center. Now that can be overridden by workforce management if they have a large volume of incoming calls, but at least people understand that they're not being required to do something silly. They're understanding that it's all going to be for the benefit of the organization as a whole. So really important, that point that you made there, Erica, that the technology has to be an enabler and not a block to really performing at your best.
Correct. Because once the agents put up that mental block that you're here to enforce, they'll shut down on you. They'll shut down on you pretty quickly. So it's a tool. I've been in workforce myself when I was with a few of the organizations. I've worked as an agent interacting with workforce management, and it's simply there to not be as I mentioned, the big brother and let me catch you doing something wrong, but let me show you how to do things right. That's how you want to approach it.
Okay,
there's just a few more, two more items that may be root causes if you're struggling with the schedule adherence. The other two are agents and adherence. Do have to pick up the slack for those who are not in adherence, which we talked about a few moments ago. And also, sometimes individual management styles will influence the person's adherence. And what I mean by that is, as we go back a little bit with the manager either being too lax and or the manager, I would start with your managers. Make sure that the managers and our supervisors are working to set the examples too. They're not being gone too long. They're coming in to work on time, things of that nature.
Right. I know actually a story just popped into my head. I was talking to a manager at 3M about their metrics and asked about adherence. And these are the guys who make everything from Scotch tape to Post-it notes to really some of the toughest adhesives in the world. So he joked to me, he says, no problem. We just glue them to their seats.
Well, when they start selling that, I'm sure you got a lot of takers.
Hey guys, I have a couple of questions that have come in. How about this? There's one that fits in perfectly from Cindy. Cindy asks, can you provide suggestions for good workforce management software?
Okay. Let's see. Would you like to answer that at all, Erica?
Okay. Well, I have used, I think it's TLC. Is that correct, Bruce? You remember that? It was back in the 90s. But currently, we actually use a Adherence product. It's been pretty decent. I think they purchased Blue Pumpkin, if I am saying that correctly, and they also purchased some crystallized reporting elements. So if you do a general search on the web for workforce management software, I'm aware that they have a lot of very cost-effective software. They also have some web-based programs, just depending on your budget. You typically can find something to fit whatever budget you're working with. Just do a search on the internet, and they're all pretty relatively decent.
Right. I think that's right. And obviously we have a policy of being vendor neutral on these programs and things. But what you mentioned is right with regard to Verint, which actually it's a situation where Blue Pumpkin started things and was bought by Witness, that was then bought by Verint. So it's some interesting systems, i3. There's some very good vendors out there that have a proven track record. And what we suggest you do is to look them up online, as Erica was saying. Check them out, talk to them, have them strut their stuff in front of you, and then make a decision as to which one has the price point and the kinds of functionalities that you really need. Because what we found from our the survey that we just did is that 71% of you indicated that you do follow adherence and therefore probably have a way of doing it, and 28.7% of you don't. And so in those cases, you probably don't have any software and are probably looking for something that will make sense for you. And obviously the size of the call center will make a difference in terms of whether you're going to spend a lot on this kind of software, but it can make a big difference. We have seen ROIs that are spectacular when it comes to workforce management. So I can also tell you that we're going to be launching a survey very shortly on workforce optimization, which has an international component to it. So please keep an eye out for that survey, which will be coming out pretty soon on workforce optimization, and you'll be able to get back information not only from the United States but also from other places. Okay, Sean, are there any other questions?
I have two questions that seem to go together. Mike asks, how often should I revise workforce management scheduling? And then Gloria asks, is there an industry standard or goal for adherence?
Okay, those are two great questions. The first one presented by Mike is, how often should you work on your schedules, workforce management schedules, things of that nature? What we typically do is we do forecasts 2 weeks in advance. It really depends on your business. If you're in a high seasonality type of business, and as you look at your previous call volumes, you see you peak in the summer or you peak in the winter, whatever your call flows are, you want to make sure you're ahead of the game. I typically would recommend, I've seen between 2 weeks and upwards of a month in advance. If you have the software to actually produce the schedules based on the forecast, you're only as good as your forecast, and usually it's best to be within a 5% margin, either plus or minus. But I definitely would recommend you don't go too far in advance because then you may miss the mark by capturing more recent call volume. The second question, could you repeat that, Sean? I'm sorry.
Sure. Is there an industry standard or goal for adherence?
I'm not aware if there's an industry standard. I'm not sure if Bruce can chime in on that. However, the goals, once again, I would not go too stringent. I wouldn't go higher than 95% because you do want to have some leeway in there for people to go to the restroom or do whatever they need to do. You can actually, if you go online and you can type in schedule adherence calculator, you can make that determination about what your business needs are. For instance, in our specific call center, our agents typically, if they work a full 8 hours, have approximately 20 minutes to play with in order to meet their goals. And so you have to align it based on your needs. Is 20 minutes too much because of your high call volume? Do you have a low call volume to where it can allow you to go maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes? It's just something I would do is bring in the staff if you don't have a measure already set, some of the agents, and start to find out what would be a good even point. Because realistically, we cannot hold them to 100% schedule adherence, but it's to find an even balance, and that's just going to be determined on your business.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Erica. And there are a couple of things that came out of our 1-minute survey that we did here. And actually, plurality, 43% of you indicated that you revise your workforce scheduling as required. So there's no established intervals. Among those of you who have established intervals, monthly comes in with just under 20%, and quarterly comes in with 15%. There's only about 4% who do it weekly, not even 2% who do it biweekly. So really, there's quite a bit of flexibility here in terms of what most of you are reporting for your revision of workforce scheduling. So I think it really is something that needs to be done as required for your kind of business. And in terms of the people who have a target, they have a target of, on average, of 90.6%, and they actually achieve, the respondents, an average of 87.9%. So we're talking about something that's in the 90% range here for what people are considering best practices, and we have seen that. In fact, in our centers of excellence, we've seen adherences in levels of over 90%, but not 100%. Certainly, it's going to be somewhere usually in the area that Erica was talking about. Okay, thanks. Sean, any other questions?
Yes, we had a question emailed in by Carmel. Carmel's question is, I would like to know the pros and cons to measuring individual agents on adherence or a team supervisor level. Too many times adjustments are required because it's not fair to the agent, but the agents themselves have to do what the supervisor instructs them to do, i.e. planning offline time, or i.e. unplanned offline time.
Okay, well, that's a couple-part question. I'll try to answer it pretty quickly. The manager and the supervisor needs to make sure that they keep workforce informed. If you're going to take an agent off the phone, it's very vital that you let workforce know ahead of time, opposed to behind the time, because workforce is looking for that agent, or your service levels are dependent on that agent being on the phone at that specific time. So I'm a big advocate of doing things ahead of time. Of course, those one-off situations do happen. When you first start measuring schedule adherence, my experience has been with multiple teams is that you have a great influx of trying to fix the adherence for the agents because they were doing this, they were doing that. It just boils down to the manager making sure that they manage the time, and remember those team members are there to be on the phones. And so minimize the amount of time you take them off, but when you do take them off, try to pre-plan and keep workforce involved. One other thing I would like to add is that all of our managers, as well as when I've been with other organizations, they are measured based on their team's schedule adherence. That's part of their monthly scorecard as well as their annual review. And so if they are not doing the right thing as far as pre-planning or letting workforce know, then it's going to hit them as well on their scorecards. So you just have to tailor that behavior and don't allow the managers or supervisors to keep doing things back in just to meet the goal. The goal is to have people on the phone at the right time so that everyone can be successful.
Okay, that's great. Great. There's just a couple other items that I'd like to bring in, too, from the 1-minute survey that we did that could be of interest to people. And that is, we had a question earlier about, workforce management systems, what people use. And 66% of you reported that you use commercial workforce systems. Internal spreadsheets using your own algorithms, 26.42%, and internal spreadsheets based on Airline C, 13.84%. So, and then there's some others as well. But that gives you an idea of how people are doing it. And another is, how do you reward people for adherence? And what we found there is that oftentimes the adherence is part of an overall formula for rewarding agents. So it will be included with other metrics having to do with quality and with the quantity of calls taken. And that mixed together will come up with some sort of incentive for the agents. And although there are about half of you who do nothing specifically for adherence, there are those who have gifts, plaques, priority in shift bidding, extra time off to be used with vacation or sick leave, other things like that are in fact used by some of you to incentivize good adherence. Erica, do you have any thoughts on that?
You do need a reward. Try to encourage the better behavior. Instead of using punitive measures, I would just encourage you to try to make it a part of the in crowd to meet their metrics. Celebrate success with your agents, both individually and as a team. Certificates, my experience, go a long way if you don't have a lot of money. So just keep them motivated by acknowledging and recognizing that they are doing the right thing and celebrate that.
Okay, great. Well, John, we're at the bottom of the hour. Is there any other question that we should take at this point, or should we close it off?
The one other question that came from Steve, which I think is an interesting one, is what are some tips for measuring adherence with at-home agents?
Okay, that's a great question. With at-home agents, if you have I would treat them the same as if they were sitting in the office. They're logged into the phones. They, have to go into after call or log out and or put themselves in break if they're going to take a break and or go to the restroom, something of that nature. So I would not treat them any differently. Now, the only piece to at-home agents is that you really cannot tell if it's a wireless headset, if they're walking around the home with the headset on. So that's something that's out of your control. But you may, because everything's in a closer quarters, you may want to look at if you want to increase their adherence by maybe 1 or 2% higher than the agents in the call center, because the agents have to actually physically go further, probably for restroom and things of that nature. That may be a thought, but I would treat them exactly as they do the agents that are actually in the call center. Use either a spreadsheet if you're using a spreadsheet, or use a workforce management tool if you have that.
Okay, I think you parsed out those issues very nicely, Erica. Thank you very much. Okay, well, and thank you for being on the show today. We've run to the end of our period here, but I think it was a great show, and hopefully people have some good takeaways that they can utilize in their call centers. So thank you very much, Erica. Back to you, Sean.
Erica, I wanted to thank you as well for being a co-host today. Lots of great insights. I want to thank all the participants for your questions and helping make it a great show. Don't forget to sign up for our reality check to see how your adherence compares to peers in your industry. Our winner today of the in-depth reality check is Gary. Gary, you chatted in your question. Please email me at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com so we can get you your free in-depth reality check report valued at $1,500. The topic for our next show is social media and the call center. Where are we headed? That will be, the co-host will be Keith Feisten, and that will be on May 29th. Thank you for joining our show today, and have a great day.